and I'll send out the recording just in case. So we're talking about purpose when not to write a book. If you do not have a good underlying motivation or purpose, it's not a good time to write a book. Sometimes people come to me and they say, why are you writing a book? And they say, well, somebody told me I should. That is not a good reason to write a book. You need to have your own reason. So what is your driving passion? Are you looking to share your knowledge, inspire others, entertain? Do you have a unique perspective, a message, a unique story you want to share? Is this a personal fulfillment? Do you want professional recognition? So you really want to be clear on your purpose. And we are going to come back to this again and again because it's so important. The next thing is books take time and commitment. A lot of people think they're going to write a book, and apparently the statistic is 97% of people who want to write a book, start writing a book, don't finish it. And I think time and commitment is a huge part of that. It takes commitment to write a book. And so before you jump into it, you want to know the scope of the project, what's involved in it, and you want to understand whether it fits into your current life. Do you have the schedule? Do you have the availability? Do you have the level of commitment, or do you have other responsibilities that are in your way? Once upon a time when my children were young, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I started being her caregiver. She lived a few blocks away from me. And so every night after dinner, I would run over to my mother's house to make sure she ate, and I would fix her remote control because it broke every night. She'd just forgotten how to use it, and she wanted the TV on. So I would go over and set her up for the evening. That was not a time in my life to take on any large projects. I already had 2 children, volunteer work, and my mother. So that was not a time to take in something else. So I really, take some time to consider, is this the right time to do this? The next is your expertise level. You want to assess the knowledge and your expertise in your subject matter. Do you already have credibility? Are you trying to develop credibility by writing the book? Do you not have authority and you think the book is going to be a magic cure for that? Because it isn't necessarily going to be a magic cure for your need to be seen as an authority. And I hear it all the time. Oh, if you write a book, you're the authority. And yes, if you write a good book and you are well versed in the topic you're writing about, it can help you be seen as an authority. But if you came out of school, let's say, with a bachelor's degree, and you thought, oh, I know the right way to do it is to write a book, I'll be an authority, then that would be the wrong way to write a book, right? So you want to think about your expertise and where your niche expertise is. And then audience. Something else I hear authors say, well, I'll write a book and then people will buy it. And you've seen the movie Field of Dreams. He built a field, people came. That is a fantasy world in the world of writing. So if you write it, they will not come. I think that's a really important lesson for authors. If you write it, they will not come. If you don't have an audience and you don't have a group of people who are already interested in your book, and you think that somehow sneaking away into the basement or the attic and writing a book and then suddenly springing it on the world will solve an audience problem, it will absolutely not solve an audience problem. And I hear publishing professionals out there saying, a book will help you with your audience. The truth is, you want to have an audience ready to buy a book when the book is published. So it's not a solution to the audience problem. And the other thing I'd like you to consider are the alternatives. A lot of people come to me and they say, I want to write a book. And well, okay, why? I think the book's the right things. Well, have you considered writing articles? Have you considered writing a blog? Have you considered doing a podcast, doing videos? There are lots of ways to disseminate information. So when you're thinking about your content, your core content, whether, whatever it happens to be, you want to think about, I want to get a message out to the world. I want to teach the world something. I want to give them knowledge. What is the best way to do that? Sometimes a book is the best way to do it, and sometimes a book is not the best way to do it. sometimes I have business owners come to me and they say, I want to write a book and I'm just starting my business. I'm absolutely brand new, but I want to write a book because it will, if everyone could mute themselves, that would be great. If you're not muted already. Thank you. So sometimes brand new business owners come and they think the way to start a business is to write a book because it'll prove their expertise and it'll build an audience. And what I say is, let's look at your core business. Let's look at your core content, because a book is part of content. It is content. And let's figure out, if you're starting a business, you don't want to spend a year and a lot of money writing a book that you're going to sell for $20 when you can start much faster by developing a course or a coaching program, for example. And so you want to think about, why are you writing a book? What is the messaging you want out there? And what is the best way to get that out? All right. Do we have questions? I'm going to stop sharing for a moment to take any questions. Do you have questions about that? Yes, go ahead, Brian. If you have a question, just go ahead and unmute and ask away.
Do you have any questions that we could ask ourselves about these 5 things, about the purpose that we have for writing the book?
Yes, absolutely. And we're actually going to be looking at goals and purpose later, because it's one of the most, it's foundational to that. And so we're going to dig into that later. So do you want to hang on to that? And if I don't give you enough by the time we're done that piece, you can circle back around and say, specifically, can you help me with this section? Does that work for you, Brian? Perfect. Other questions?
Got a question. What about if you want to write a spiritual fable? Is it the same thing? Is it like, what's the purpose of the spiritual fable? What am I trying to do or say, or how? What would you say? Is that the same thing?
Yes, Wendy. How do you want to get that across, right? Is it a book, right? Fables are usually quite short. And so, how long is this fable, right? Fables are sometimes more, a booklet, right?
Yeah.
Tend to be shorter. And who are you giving, who's the fable for? Is it for people who will read, or, storytelling, fables and storytelling, right? Oral storytelling, that can be really powerful. So maybe a fable delivered as oral storytelling will make a greater impact. I mean, I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm saying that sometimes people just go straight to book. When they come to me, I say, well, let's look at what the alternatives are. Because sometimes in spiritual spiritual fables, oral storytelling can be one of the most powerful things. You think about, when you're in front of your church congregation and you're telling a story, that's what often moves people, right?
Yeah.
More so than just reading scripture. Sometimes, if the minister can stand up and tell a powerful story, everyone understands it. So just as a thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Not that I'm trying to convince you not to write a book, because that's what I do, but what I don't want are authors who come in and then they realize it's like, oh, there was a better way to do this. So it's something I want to make sure that we deal with before you actually start the process, because books are a big project, right?
Yeah, maybe we don't even always understand how big, right?
Yes, and hopefully at the end I'll have some time to show you how big. I want to give you a sense of what it looks like. Any other questions? No, all right. You can pop them in anytime you want. There we go. Okay. Next section, we're going to be talking about when is the right time to write a book. And this is a lot more fun than when not to write a book. And it's very, very similar, you'll find. So when is the right time to write a book? And I want to look at 4 considerations. I want to look at expertise again. So this is how I look at expertise, because this is a big question, because I hear some people say everyone should write a book, or you shouldn't write a book unless you're already an expert. And so when you're thinking about assessing your expertise level, you want to reflect on your knowledge, your experience, your qualifications, You want to think about the value that you want to deliver. You want to think about if there's further research or learning, or sometimes there's a collaboration. For example, Corey Walker, who I interviewed on my show last season, she co-authored Instagram for Dummies and Instagram for Business for Dummies. There were 3 collaborators on that book, each with their own areas of expertise, because you know the For Dummies books are like Bibles, right? They have everything in there. And so instead of trying to learn everything, they had 3 authors collaborate on it. So when you're thinking about your expertise, these are things you can think about. You reflect on your background, your knowledge. Do you have unique insights and perspectives? And remember, you can do research. And when you're thinking about your expertise, this is a good time to think about the validation of your idea. If you have colleagues you can talk to and help validate your ideas, that can be really useful. So this is the way I look at it, because some people will say anyone should write a book, and some people say, oh, you have to be, an absolute expert. This is how I look at it. You come out of university with your bachelor's degree. You can go off and work in industry, or you can go on and get your master's degree. If you go on and get your master's degree, when you're finished that, you go on and you get your PhD. A PhD is narrow research, or research in a very narrow field, and it culminates in a thesis, which is really a well-researched book, right, on a very narrow topic. And so the person who left school with a bachelor's degree and worked in industry for 10 years, while the other person got a PhD, one of them has a lot of experience. The other doesn't have as much experience per se, but they have a lot of research and study. So which one is the expert, right? So the kid, coming out of your bachelor's degree, you shouldn't write a book. But if you have your PhD, you've written a book. And if you have as much experience in the real world as a PhD, and you've done extra study and extra research, and you've been really thoughtful, and you've been learning and becoming someone in your industry with insights, then does that make you an expert, right? Then yes, I think it can. And so I just want to give you a different perspective on the idea of expertise, because I hear a lot of people out there, anyone can write a book, or, this level of expertise only. So in order to gauge your own expertise, you can think about the different paths we take to becoming experts, and where you are on that path and what that means for you. So the next one, of course, is time. So if you need to find time in your schedule to write a book, so if you don't have an extra minute, it's going to be hard to write a book. You need to have time in your schedule, and you need to commit to writing a book. And not just writing the book, you have to research the book, edit the book, publish the book, promote the book. So when you're thinking about the time level it takes a certain amount of time, at least a year. So from the time a traditional publisher signs a contract with an author, it takes 18 months to 2 years in traditional publishing. And I've seen self-publishing experts say, oh, you can publish a book in 7 days. So traditional publishers take 18 months to 2 years, just to give you a sense, because they're taking their time and doing it really well, right? So analyze your schedule, look at your daily, weekly routines, see where your pockets of time are, right? Can you ask your significant other to take on some responsibilities for a short time while you do this for you? You want to set priorities. Will this book be a priority? Can you set these goals and make this a priority? Can you create a writing routine for yourself? Can you create a schedule and keep up the energy levels? And time management, right? Are you willing to block out some time? Can you eliminate distractions? And there are tools and resources that can help you with that, but these are some of the things you want to think about. And then we're going to talk about goals again, and we will come back to this again, but you really want to reflect on your personal objectives and aspirations for writing a book. And not just in the short term. You see out there, I see publishing professionals, write a book in 7 days. A book is going to last years and years, decades, forever. So I want you, when you think about your personal goals, I want you to think about, where am I going to be with this book in 10 years? Not just a year, not just, oh, I'm going to launch it and I'm done. But this is something that you're going to integrate into your life long term, personally, professionally, legacy. I want you to consider those. And we're going to come back around to that. And then finally, and this is one that I think a lot of people miss out on, is support. Do you have support from friends or family, significant other? Do you have a support system? Especially if you need one, if you have kids, for example, right? You know, writing a book with kids, you need a support system where somebody else can help you maneuver through that, right? I think that you want to have people in your life know what you're doing and understanding how important it is to you. So having conversations around that, I think that's really important. The next piece of support is having a writing community. I think it's really important to have fellow writers, writing groups, go to writing workshops, conferences, a community around you that will help you, will give you feedback, share experiences, cheerlead you when you need it, support you, accountability. And then I think there's professional support. You have editors and proofreaders and coaches and consultants, marketers. So you want to figure out, what am I good at that I can do? And what am I not good at that I shouldn't be doing? And thinking about that, you can figure out who you need to hire. So I know someone who is an author, and she does all her own covers because she's this amazing graphic designer as well. I would never do my own covers, right? I would never do a cover for a client. We always hire that out. That is not my skill set. So you have to look at your skill sets and all the things that need to happen along the way so that you can figure out what works for you. And of course, accountability. I don't know an author who doesn't need some sort of accountability. Writing your goals down, setting deadlines, tracking your progress, partnering with accountability partner, having ways to stay motivated and focused. Do we have any questions? Clear as mud? Okay, good. All right, I want to pop into the next section then. We are going to be talking about those 3 steps. All right. So I want to talk about 3 steps to get started. These are the 3 things I consider absolute must-dos before you put pen to paper. And I know there are planners in this world and there are pantsters in this world. Pantsters, people who fly by the seat of their pants. And sometimes people come to me with their books and they're like, I'm a pantster. And usually what I ask is, last time you went on vacation for a week or 2, did you have any plan? Like, did you have an itinerary? Did you buy a ticket? Did you pack a suitcase? Did you have any plan at all? Or did you show up at the airport with no luggage, no ticket, no destination, no passport, and expect to have a successful vacation? So when we plan a 1-week or a 2-week vacation, some of us obsessively plan minute-to-minute itineraries, right? We don't have to plan that much, but if we plan our vacations, they are far more successful. And that's just for a 1 or 2 week vacation. This is a book. This is a book that's going to last a lifetime. So I encourage you to do these 3 steps if you do nothing else as you start your book. So step 1 is, and you're not going to be surprised, set clear and specific goals. You know, I keep coming back to purpose and goals for a reason, right? It's so important. And yet it may seem so obvious, but so many authors come to me and they don't have clear and specific goals. And then their book doesn't do as well as they want it to do. For example, some people will say to me, oh, you know, if they're in business, I want to get more clients. But what does that mean? What does that mean? And how is that going to happen? You need to be far more specific than, I want this to build my business. How is it going to build your business? How are you integrated into the business? This is really important. I want to look at 4 different types of goals. There are life goals. People come and say, Melody, it's been a bucket list item all my life. I want to write a book. And I'm like, that's great. There are people who want to climb Mount Everest. That is a bucket list goal, right? Wonderful. To climb Mount Everest, someone who's already a mountain climber spends an entire year training hard to climb Mount Everest. And they spend about $30,000 on equipment and food. Food alone, I think, is, I looked it up, about $6,000. So just preparation and food, it takes a year. So if writing a book is a life goal, that's great, but it's kind of like climbing Mount Everest. It takes time, it takes money, and so you can expect to be putting a lot of time into it. And so if you want to write a book as badly as some people want to climb Mount Everest, awesome, that's wonderful. I think there's some good personal goals. We learn when we write, we heal when we write, we become a better writer when we write a book. So I think there are personal goals, and I think you want to look at your personal goals as well. There are professional goals. A really good professional goal is to articulate your expertise to a reader who is not in the room to ask and answer questions. It's a really good professional goal. But we also want to be very specific. As I said, some people say, oh, I just want to build my business. So, okay, so how is this going to work? I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, a client comes to me and we look at what they do, and they're already a speaker and they have a signature talk. But when they get off stage, they're not making that connection. So let's write a book or a booklet. It doesn't have to be a 200-page book. A booklet is 100 pages and under. It could be an 89-page booklet. It depends on what your goals are, of course. But you're going to write a booklet or a book, turn it into an ebook. When people come off the stage and they're excited and they come to you and they're talking to you, you say, this is wonderful. I'll give you the first chapter of my book on this topic, or the ebook copy, or whatever it happens to be, in exchange for an email. And now you have a way to communicate with them and build a relationship. You have a way to talk to them. Another thing that somebody has done with me is they've decided that Amazon is a huge search engine. True. And they've written a book specifically for Amazon. So what they put in the front matter is specifically for Amazon, so that when people find them on Amazon, they can then connect them to the rest of their work. Different book than the speaker, right? Different book, right? Different audience. It's different when somebody has seen you speak. And I'm not saying you can't use one book for a variety of things. What I am saying is you want to really think clearly, because people sometimes write books and then they're done, and then they come to me and say, I've got this book, it's not working. And they don't know how to make it work. If you think about that beforehand and you know how to integrate it into your business, it'll be so much easier afterwards, because you don't want life and family and everything over here and then a book way over there that you have to promote. You want to integrate it, and that starts with goals. And of course, there are legacy goals as well. This is something that will last forever. The benefits of setting goals. Biggest benefit is that you will have a direction. It is really hard to write a book. It's like saying, well, tomorrow I'm going to go build a house. It's like, well, no, you're not. You might get out a shovel and start digging a foundation, but you won't be building a house, right? So, it helps you have that direction. When you have direction, you're more likely to stay accountable. You will feel more confident, and you're more likely to stay on track. And people who are accountable and confident and on track, they're writing regularly, which means their writing starts to flow. I had a client who, when we started working together, he said, Melody, I feel like I'm driving with a handbrake on. This is what writing feels like. And so we worked through that, right? It's like, okay, let's make sure you have the right direction. Let's make sure things are going well so that we can get your writing flowing so you can enjoy this process more. So it's a long process. If you're hating writing a book, why are you doing it? And yes, there will be times when it's really hard, just like climbing Mount Everest. There'll be times when it's really hard, but you also want to be enjoying the process. And so having your goals and having them as specific as you can make them is the number one thing I want you to do. The number two thing I want you to do is know your readers. Now you know your own purpose and your own goals. I want you to get to know your readers, and don't assume you know them. Some authors come to me and they say, Melody, I'm just writing for myself. And I say, that's fine. As long as you don't expect anyone to buy your book or review your book or recommend your book, then you go ahead and write for yourself and don't worry about readers. But I promise you, if you want people to read your book, buy your book, review your book, and recommend your book, you must think about your readers. Really, really get to know them. And in my world, that means having empathy and understanding. And here are 8 categories that you might want to consider. You want to understand their goals. You want to understand their experiences, their good experiences and their bad experiences with the topic you're talking about. Because if they're having good experiences, you can lean into that. If they're having bad experiences, you can move them away from those. Beliefs. How many times have you spoken to someone about your book topic and they have a belief that you know is not true? Or sometimes you believe something and you know it's true and they don't believe it at all. And so if you understand where their beliefs are different than yours, you can move them over. What are their challenges? Why are they struggling? Why aren't they already where you are? What's in their way? If you know what's in their way, you can produce content that matters for that. Their fears and their desires. Oh, especially those things they don't want to say out loud. We all have fears and desires that are so deep, we don't even want to say them out loud. Now, obviously, you can't ask them for these, but you can get a sense. Their knowledge set and their skill set. These are all things that can be really helpful. So here's an example. And I think of, I tend to tell people when you're working on the content of your book, you take your reader before they've read the book, and you take your reader after they read the book, and you look at where they are in their beliefs, their feelings, their knowledge, and their behavior, the things they do. So believe, feel, know, do. So for example, if I'm writing a book about getting fit and healthy after 50, and somebody thinks, oh, you can't lose belly fat after 50, right? It's that's their belief. You want to change that belief too with the right lifestyle, diet, attitude, activities. I can lose belly fat after 50. You want to change that belief, because until you change the belief, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you give them. Nothing's going to change. So you're working on their mindset, their attitude, their belief. You want to work on their feelings. Sometimes they come in saying, you know, I'm just too old to go on an adventurous vacation. I had all these plans in my 20s and I thought I was going to do all these cool things with my life. And then, you know, yeah, I have the money now, but, you know, I'm exhausted. I raised kids. I had a job, you know, I'm mid-career and I just don't get the exercise and I'm just not going to climb Mount Everest. It's just not going to happen. And so you want to move them to the feeling of, I am happily planning the vacation of a lifetime. So you want to move them over emotionally. You want to move their knowledge over. So maybe they know all fats are equal, fat is fat, stay away from all fat, which is really a belief, not knowledge, because knowledge is true and that is not true. But you want them to know some fats are healthier than others. I can choose healthy fats that are vital to my health. So this is a great exercise for you to do with your knowledge of your readers. Where are they before? Where are they after? And what is the content, the knowledge? What are all the pieces I need to give them to move them to where they need to be? Because if you know your readers really well, you are going to create the right content. You're going to structure a book appropriately for your reader. You will include the right elements. And when I say element, I mean within a chapter, you may have a story, you may have a quote, you may have a section of information, you may have a case study, you may have a set of questions, journal questions. So these are all elements that you can put in a book. And there are lots and lots of elements you can put in a book. A book is not an information dump. A book is you holding their hand and leading them down a path to get them where they want to be. And sometimes people, what if your readers love quotes? Start every chapter with a quote. What if they hate quotes? Don't do quotes, right? So you want to know what elements will resonate with them. And you want the right voice and the right tone. Because if you can get these right, that's when readers are going to buy and read your book. They're going to be so excited. They're going to review your book and they're going to recommend it to others. And that's where you start getting your return on investment. Because now you've written something for them that they're so excited about. I have a client, Tammy. She's writing a book. She's on her second draft. And when she was writing her first draft, at one point, she came to one of the events and she said, Melody, I don't even want to write this anymore. I'm so bored. Who'd want to read it? And so we went back, we set up a time and we went back and looked at it. And she's an academic. She teaches at college. And so she was writing her book as though she was talking to her students, but she was writing a book to parents. And I said, yeah, if I were a parent and I had a toddler at home, I wouldn't want to read an academic text either. Right? I don't have time for that. I need something that's simple. I need a mentor talking to me, not a teacher. I need someone who is a parent who's been there and done that, and someone with a sense of humor. So we started talking about what her voice and tone should be, what elements they needed, how she should structure it. And she's like, right. And when she was resettled into that, because really she'd just forgotten, she started writing more. She started writing faster. She started writing better. And it became so much easier for her. And finally, developing the concept. And this looks deceptively easy, but it's not as easy as one might think. Lots of people have more than one book in them. And they start writing, they start jumping from idea to idea. They land up with a jumbled mess. The book takes too much time and energy, and then we're stuck and we're into a problem. So have a really good concept. Your concept is one sentence and one sentence only, and that can be really hard for people, but it's one sentence and one sentence only. And the easiest way to think about it is, what are my goals? What are my readers' goals? And what is that one concept that satisfies both of us? And then when you have your concept, everything you write must fit into the concept. If it doesn't fit in, you don't write about it. Very simple. Does this fit? And I do this with my clients all the time. They're like, should I put this in or should I put it not in? And we go back to the concept. Does it fit? No. Okay, easy. Don't put it in. Does it fit? Yes, add it. Your concept, as I said, is one sentence, and I'm going to give you two examples. I think of the concept of your book as either transforming your reader or expressing a big idea. Right? In the case of memoir, you can also use the idea of themes as well. So transformation, here's an example. Change your parenting mindset to raise a child that doesn't need disciplining because they have developed their own discipline. And so obviously this is for parents raising children who are having some behavioral issues, and parents feel like they're on the punishment train and they don't want to be there. And so they want to move off the punishment train, and they want their children to have their own internal discipline. So that's a transformation. Here's a big idea. What if businesses only sent emails to people we have direct and express permission to do so? That's a big idea. And I know you're reading this and you're like, yeah, Melody, we have laws about this, right? This is obvious. This is so obvious. Well, in 1999, a man named Seth Godin wrote a book called Permission Marketing. Before that, this was not even an idea. Nobody thought about emails and spam. Anyone sent anybody any emails anytime they wanted. If they got your email, they could just email you. And Seth Godin came up with this big idea in 1999. He published a book called Permission Marketing. 20 years later, this big idea is embedded into our laws. So whether you know who Seth Godin is, whether you've read the book, even if you've never heard of the book, this big idea has affected your life. So you're either transforming your reader or you're sharing a big idea. Or in the case of memoir, I will also often think about theme. The benefits of this, once you have your outline, you can have the structure, you can, so once you have your concept, from there, you can do an outline, because it's easy to say this fits, this doesn't. It fits into the book or it doesn't. So, you know, should my kids eat chicken? What does that have to do with discipline? Nothing. Doesn't go in, right? You know, should I send my child to the corner for 5 minutes as punishment? That has something to do with disciplining versus internal discipline. That goes in the book, right? So it gets really easy. From there, you create an outline and a structure. And when you have an outline and a structure, you know, going back to the house, you're no longer building a house. Today, you're digging a foundation. Tomorrow, you're putting the electricity in the bathroom. So when you have an outline, today I'm writing the third section in chapter 2, whatever that happens to be. And now when you sit down to write a book, it's no longer overwhelming. You're not writing a book. You're writing a very specific topic, like why it's wrong to put your child in the corner for 5 minutes facing the wall as discipline, right? That's all I'm writing about today. Now that's very doable. And when you get to the point where you have an outline and this book is doable, you will feel confident, you will be motivated, and you will stay focused. When I ask my authors, what are the 3 big things that get in your way? I don't have the time. I don't feel motivated. I have trouble staying focused. These 3 steps are going to help you with that. I had a client come to me. She had about 2/3 of her book done. And, you know, she was stuck. She says, I don't know where to go from here. So we actually stopped writing. We went back. We did her goals. We got to know her reader. We did a concept. We did an outline and structure for the book. And then we looked at where she was. And she was like, oh, I get it. I know exactly what I need to do. I can put things in. She had 1 chapter that was like the size of, 2.5 chapters. We divided that into 2 chapters. And she very easily finished the book because she could see it. She was no longer lost. And so I really encourage you to do these 3 steps if you do nothing else. Know your goals. Be as specific and as clear and as narrowed down as you can. Know your ideal reader. Know them so that when you talk to them, they feel like you were talking to them personally. Oh my God, he wrote this book for me. If you can write like that, everyone will want to read your book. When somebody comes to me and says, oh, my book's for everyone, it's like, no. Your book is for that one person. And when you write to one person like you care deeply about them, everybody wants to read your book because they all feel it. And your book concept. Right, questions. We're back to questions. Do we have any questions?
Melody, I want to take you back to,
Yes.
put it, it was the believe, the 4 things.
Believe, know, feel, do.
Yeah, and so this might be an obtuse question, but we didn't talk about the do. Was that just follow through whatever the rest is?
I just didn't talk about it. So, keeping it short. But for example, if somebody wants to, thinking about parenting, right? It might be, what are you doing now? I'm putting them in the corner for 5 minutes every time they misbehave. Well, what can you do instead?
Okay.
Right. So that's a do. But I just didn't do an example for each. Sorry, Wendy.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just didn't want to miss out.
And the whole idea of believe and know, those are very interesting because some people think they know something, but really it's a belief. And so if you can break those down, it's like, yeah, you think you know that, but that's really a belief. And you can break that belief down. Then you can give them other beliefs and knowledge will serve them better, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful, Melody. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Any other questions at this point? Are we good? Yes. So I'd love to know very quickly, is there a part of this that resonated with you? Or is there a part of this where you thought, oh, I'm never going to get this done? Like, where are you on the book topic right now? Are you like, this has helped me, I do not want to write a book, or this has helped me and I do want to write a book? Brian, were you going to say?
Yeah, I spent 7 years from 2014 trying to write a nonfiction book, and I decided that I'd just use it for background for a fiction book.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't really know where I am.
Okay, yes.
Have I given up on my nonfiction book, or am I a fiction book writer, or just what's going on?
Yeah, get it. And has this helped you at all in figuring that out, or do you need more?
I think I need more because,
Okay.
I frankly have heard all this before,
Okay,
and
fair.
it just hasn't ever resonated with me enough to make me feel like I know the answer, that that's the next step.
Okay. Yeah. And I think, am I a fiction author? Am I a nonfiction author? That might be one of the first questions you want to ask yourself. So I'm happy to talk to you, give you 30 minutes of my time to just work through that with you to see if we can sort that out. Yeah. Anyone else? Where are you?
I guess I'm just really clear that it's not time to write a book.
There. And that's good. It's good that you know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wendy. Karen, do you want to?
Hi. I am at really the very beginning, and really just sort of working through an idea. So this is kind of like step one. And so I really appreciate the framework that you've laid out, and just sort of things to start with. It does remind me of big writing projects, like academic writing projects, and I know that they're having that outline, like all the same kinds of tools that you use for big academic projects. The oh my God, I can't do one more section feeling. I'm not really. I know that feeling. I'm not really thinking, wow, that's fabulous. I'd love to. I'd love to feel that pain again. So it's a good time to ask those questions. Like, am I prepared to make the commitment to do this?
Yes.
So time-wise, really good for me.
Yeah, I love that, Carrie, because that's it. So many people dive into it and then they're stuck, and then they come to me, and sometimes they realize, oh, wait, books aren't for me right now. And sometimes they don't want to give up. So all those things, if we can just deal with it right now, before you dive in, and then I'm happy. Like, and if the answer is this is not the time to write a book, then I'm happy, because people aren't coming to me and then realizing, oh, this was a big mistake, right? It's the last thing I want for people. Perfect.
No, I totally get that. So I help people with courses, and
yes.
I totally understand that sometimes they've jumped to a solution. And so I'm often sort of validating with people, is this the right solution to your problem? So I hear you doing that. I totally support that as a first starting place. So I'm glad to have somebody turn it around and do it to me. So thank you.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to share a little bit more, because I did say that if we had time, I would share a little bit about the process. And so I'm going to talk about what I call the book success blueprint. And so this is from my community. This is my program. And I think whether you want to write a book now or later, whether you want a program or not, I think this will really help you kind of understand what you're getting into. So in our program, we have 5 stages. We have the author roadmap, wordsmith mastery, publish with purpose, launchpad to success, and the book buzz builder. And so each stage has a different purpose. Author roadmap, this is where we set your goals. We get to know our readers. We create our outline and our concept, and you really setting you up so you understand what you're getting into. And then in wordsmith mastery, this is where the actual writing happens, the first draft, the second draft, the editing, storytelling, learning about all those elements you could choose from. And it takes you right through editing, front matter, back matter, proofreading, until you're ready to publish. And then in publish with purpose, in this community, in this program, we have 4 ways for you to publish. There's self-publishing, do it all on your own, partner publishing, hybrid publishing, and traditional publishing. And depending on which route is best for you, you will choose one of those routes and you will go down that particular path. Once you're published, you're launching. So I look at launch a little bit differently than I think a lot of publishing professionals talk about. A lot of people talk about the launch as like, oh, we've launched, that's it, it's woo, you know. Yes, it's a big, wonderful celebration, but it's also that first step to set you up for success for the rest of the book's life. And so instead of saying we're going to do these crazy wild things, we're going to say, how are we going to integrate this book into your life and business, or whatever, if maybe it's just life, how are we integrating this into your world? And let's choose strategies and tools in the launch that heads us in that direction, because what we want to do is create a virtuous circle. We want to start building a platform that's going to last a long time. And when the launch is over, because that's a big fun thing, we settle into the book, what I call the book buzz builder. Now we want to sustain and expand and build on that virtuous circle, to continue to build on those foundations. So we get into a virtuous circle, and your book is part of your life, rather than I have my life, my work. Oh, and I have this book over here I have to promote too. Where am I going to find time to do that? We want to integrate those. So these are the 5 stages. So whether you're writing a book on your own, you're writing a book in a community, or whatever you happen to do, think of the book in this way. So what we do is, these are the same 5 stages. So what we do is we break every stage down into milestones. And so, for example, in Author Roadmap, we have you created your ideal reader? Do you have a solid 1-sentence book concept? Is your working outline complete? These are just sample milestones. And then every single milestone has a set of action steps. So, for example, do you have a solid 1-sentence book concept? You might, brainstorm all your big ideas for your book. Every action step starts with a verb, and every action step takes a certain amount of time. So it's no longer, brainstorm all your big ideas for a book. That's not going to take a week. That's maybe an afternoon, right? So these are tasks that you can do within a certain amount of time. Different people take different amounts of time. So this is how I suggest you break down any big project, but specifically a book. What are the stages? What are the milestones? And milestones are things we can celebrate as well, because I believe in celebrating every small success, because that also builds, again, that virtuous circle, right? Where you get motivation, you stay focused, you're excited about it and you keep going. And so to give you an example, stage 1, your author roadmap, this is where you plan your book. Stage 1, we have a set of milestones, right? Set your goals, develop your ideal reader, understand your genre, know your competition, gather resources. These are milestones. Each milestone, have you created your ideal reader? It will have very specific verb-oriented things you need to do. And in fact, answer the questions in the Reader Persona Workbook, interview 3 to 5 ideal readers. That's actually compressed. So it would be, find the people you want to interview, reach out to them, ask them to book an appointment. So that, you actually break this down more. It's just, we don't have tons of space. So I'm just condensing it. So if you're thinking about writing a book, think about that whole. Think about the entire process, and think about in each section, in each stage, what are those milestones? And then for your milestones, how can you break them down into smaller tasks? So you're not sitting down one day going, oh, I have to write my book now, which is so overwhelming. But instead, you're sitting down and you're saying, today, I'm going to brainstorm working titles for my book. That's what I'm doing today. And that I can handle. And we're back to questions. And I will put, because I just told, I'll stop sharing. And I will put in the chat for Brian, or for anyone else really who wants to talk to me, if you're feeling stuck, that is to book a call with me, or if you prefer to email me, that's my email. I've put that in the chat. So anyone who wants to reach out, ask questions about this, book a call and talk this through, I welcome you to do that. I'm happy to give everyone here 30 minutes to talk through where they're at, talk through the 5 stages or whatever you happen to need. I know Wendy doesn't want to talk to me yet because she's decided, but now Wendy, you will know when you come to that point, you'll go, okay, I kind of get a sense that this might be the time. And then
Yeah.
that's a really positive thing.
Yeah. And if I did, or maybe when I do, I'd want to work with you, Melody. You really are clear. You're very well structured. It's not overwhelming. Just really value what you do and how you offer it. So thanks, Melody.
Thank you, Wendy. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you. Any other questions?
I wanted to also say, to reiterate what Wendy said, this has been very clear and I think psychologically really helpful steps to go through to finish your project that's this big.
Yeah.
I said I took 7 years in working on a nonfiction book. I could have worked with you and gone through it in 2 years, easy. I
Yes.
spent a lot of time making mistakes.
Yeah. Yes. Can I use that, Brian? Can I just clip that out and put that out to the world? Because that was.
You've got it recorded. You got my
Yes.
permission.
Oh, thank you. That
Yeah.
was beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Karen and then Pim.
So you've got a process and you've got a platform, and I'm going to assume that you get paid for your time and your services. And so I'm just wondering what your service offering looks like. Is it classes or tell me more about what you're offering, please.
Sure. So I'm just gonna pop Pim. I'm gonna come back. I'll come back to that in just a second. Pim, did you have a question about my services, or did you have a question that was more related to the content?
I actually just wanted to make a statement about the content.
Yes.
Is that allowed?
Yes.
I have an idea for a book that I'm not at all. I mean, I've known for a long time that it was intriguing to me, but I didn't know when I might want to even start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And even though right now I am retired, so theoretically I could plan time. It's not, I already knew it's not the time.
Right.
So one of the things I've gained from this workshop is validation and a clearer understanding of why and what it will take to move even a little bit toward that goal, if it's even one I want to pursue in the future at all. But it's also, as Karen said, you've put forth a process here that I'm interested in making use of for a different artistic endeavor. And it's really helpful for that. And so I want to thank you for that. And finally, I want to say I'm also an editor. That's what I retired from, or I'm mostly retired. I'm still editing a little bit. But anyway, kindred spirit here.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Pim. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Karen, back to your question. So in Author Nation, what we do is we have what we call the Path to Publishing Toolbox. And so we have different stages. So we have the planning, the writing, the publishing, the launch, and the promotion. And each of those stages in the toolbox, it tells you what the milestones are. It gives you your task list. And then there are also resources. So for example, there's an ideal reader workbook. And so it will have a set of questions you can go out and ask your ideal readers. And so that's one part of it. And then we have writing in community every week. We get together and we write for an hour and a half, just quiet writing time. And so a lot of my authors use that as their accountability, right? I have to have something done because I have to show up on Monday, or some of them use it. I start writing on Monday and then I feel really good about writing for the rest of the week. So we have that. We have office hours, where I am available and anyone can pop in and ask questions. We always do office hours at the end of the Monday writing and community. So there's always 30 minutes of office hours at the end of that, because sometimes things come up when you're writing. So, but I have office hours, so you can come in and ask questions anytime. I do monthly coaching. So once a month we do group coaching. So you can also bring questions at that point as well. Sometimes I do workshops. So if I have a lot of new people, I would do workshops on, let's do our book concepts together kind of thing. If I have a lot of people who want something like that. So I'll do workshops now and then. It's not a promise every time, but it's, I'll do workshops. Any workshops I've done go into the Library of Past Trainings. I have a Q&A corner. So whenever there's a question, you pop into the community, you can ask a question and I'll answer it. Somebody else might answer it. There are also author journals if you want to tell. So I encourage people to tell me every month what your goals are that month, because then I can read through and then I know what you're supposed to be doing. And then we have our community, of course, and I charge $97 a month. Does that answer your question, Karen?
Yes, that was the question. So the 97 a month includes the Path to Publishing toolbox. The way that you started to lay that out, I thought it sounded like you might purchase one component of that and sort of work on it for a while, but it's on a month by month basis.
It's a month by month basis. So you can, so if you only want the planning, you can come in and buy a month and do the planning, and that's fine. Or like if you've already written a book and you want to come in for the publishing, sorry, for the promotion, that's fine. Right. So you can do it like I'm on this section and this is what I want, but it's still, it just makes everyone's life so much easier. You come, it's $97 a month. You stay as long as you want. When you're done, you're done. Right. It simplifies everybody's life.
Yep. That makes sense. That's an easy way to do it. So wonderful. Thank you for laying that out. That's really helpful.
You're very welcome. Are there any yes, Wendy?
US, right, Melody?
Yes, it is. It is US. Yes, you're in Canada.
We are in Canada. I'm in Canada. You're not. Where are you?
I am also in Canada.
Oh, you are. But it's you. Sorry, 97 US.
A lot of my clients are, I work with people all over the world. So it's just easier to have a currency that everyone understands.
What? They don't understand Canadian money? Come on. It's so
I do. I'm from Oregon. I see Canadian money. It's very close, through Washington on I-5, and I can't spend it. So I understand it altogether.
Yeah.
Not that it isn't pretty. It's very pretty money.
It's very pretty. It's very pretty. But when you tell someone,
yeah.
I have a client, for example, in Israel, right? And so it's so much easier when you just use American currency. It's just people can do the math on that easier than they can generally.
Since you're doing the math all the time, would you give me a rough estimate of what that is in Canadian?
97 USD in Canadian is currently 128.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Any other questions? I happen to think it's a really good deal because you see me every week. I do monthly coaching. I'll answer questions at any time. You're not going to get one-on-one coaching for that anywhere ever.
No.
So yeah.
It's a great what do you call that? A business
Investment?
No. The plan, it's a business. I'm not an entrepreneur, so I don't know all the lingo, but I did study organization.
The subscription model.
Yeah, it's a model. It's a business model that I think really, really, really works.
Yes, because I charge a lot more money hourly, like a lot more money hourly. So this is my way of helping people and create. And I think the key is that when you work one-on-one with someone like me, you are paying a lot of money because it's all my energy. But when we're in a community and you go into a writing session and you talk to each other, you're getting, I may be the expert, but you have other people who are, intelligent adults who care and and have their own set of experiences that they can talk to you about. And I think there's so much value in that, in my opinion, right? Yeah.
And
Not to
also the people
downplay
that
me.
oh, I'm sorry, Melody.
I was going to say, not to downplay me, but I think that the people in my community are really special like that. It's
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that. I was just going to say that your plan brings people up so quickly, you know, in the study that you know, there will be people who can be mentors and people who can be mentored, you know, after just, it sounds to me like a couple of months.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. People mentor each other all the time. It's a really wonderful thing. Any other final? Yeah, Karen?
Just since you mentioned the groups, when you have the weekly writing groups, about how large are those? Like in people number, like just
Right. So right now, so not very many people come at the moment. So about five or so who came. Who came? Oh, it's summertime. Yeah. So you know, right now people are going on holidays. So I think I had 5 last time. Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, if there's a large group, what I would do is I would say, okay, we're gonna do breakouts. So breakout room A is the quiet room. You're just accountability together. Group, you know, breakout room B, it's if you have, you know, want to work together on something. Breakout room C will be if you'd like to read aloud to each other. And then main room can be office hours for anyone who wants to talk to me. And then, you know, we have that. So, and I do that sometimes. We'll, you know, if I have someone new, I'll say, okay, everyone work, we'll do a breakout room. And so I'm going to call it flexible because I like to do what's working at the moment for people.
Yep. No, I like that. It kind of sounds like the different trains on the West Coast Express where, you know, if you want the sleeping cart, you
Yes.
for the quiet space, you have a spot to go. If you want some conversation, there's a different train for you. So breakout rooms are just like that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, perfect. Any other
Thank you.
questions or comments or? No. Well, this has been lovely. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with everyone. And I hope that right now you're either, yes, I'm going to write a book, or it's going to be later, or that's not for me, but you're clear. And if you're not clear, or even if you just want to, put in the chat again, my calendar and my email, please reach out. And if you want to join Author Nation, of course, reach out. I'm here for you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Pim. Thanks, Karen, Brian, Leona, Vincent. Didn't hear from you.
Bye,
Bye.
Leona.
Bye, guys.
Bye.